today. And then we also have a few people that may log in later. I know that this is generally around lunchtime, so sometimes we get a couple of people that log in a little bit late. Thank you all for coming to Holly Campbell's lecture today. What did you guys think of Holly's presentation? Again, this was a kind of a different presentation than a lot of what we've seen this semester, coming more from the actual corporate business side. We lost somebody. The corporate business side of design and marketing. What did you guys think?
I liked it a lot. I just liked the amount of power she held, like, throughout the entire presentation. Like, she definitely knew what she was talking about, and, like, I don't know. Some of the other presentations are not bad, but, like, I've kind of missed that, like, sense of, like, a whole drive throughout the entire thing, and, like, a plan, and, like, advice to give, and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah, I think it's also it's how people carry themselves, with how they talk about whatever they do. Whether you be like a full-on marketing director or even just an individual artist. And I mean, I think there's a part of that that can be controlled, but I do think it also is something that just comes with experience. You saw in her presentation, like, she's done a lot and she's worked for a lot of like very big name specific brands. And so it's like, I think it's that confidence that kind of comes with like handling those levels of campaigns. That yeah, you show up to work. Uh, Liv, try logging out and then logging back in again. Sorry, apparently we're all miming and Liv can't hear us. So everybody just mime for Liz and we'll see you when you log back in. Try it again. But yeah, it's
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
What the heck?
I hear a squeaky baby. I'm assuming that's a dog toy. So yeah, it's just the confidence that comes with knowing knowing not only that you have all of these past accomplishments under your belt, but just kind of showing up to work and just being like, I'm good at this. I'm good at what I do and I can talk about it confidently. And I can outsell anything because I know all of these things. I am going to try to get those infographics that she had that sort of broke down exactly how to do what she was talking about. Because I just found those single slides to be kind of like revolutionary to me about how to think about marketing. And not even necessarily from like a brand, a corporate brand perspective, but I was looking at that stuff and I was like, okay, I could learn a thing or two about social media marketing, just like my own brand as an artist, which I am notoriously bad at. Like, I haven't posted on Instagram in like more than a year, I feel like. So it's one of those things that, like, I think we all kind of can benefit from that knowledge, whether we work in the corporate or business sphere or not. And we got some really good questions out of you guys, so I want to say thank you for that. We don't always get like the level of engagement that we got today via the questions, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, what else? What did you guys think about, Holly, how she talks, what she was speaking about, the specific like brand breakdown?
I think she was a really good speaker and it was a really good presentation. I'm not sure if I was like the perfect audience for it though, because I feel like it was super heavy marketing and advertising based, and that's just not a field I'm familiar with. But I know I was like telling my friend about it. She's like, oh, I should have gone because she's like an advertising and illustration double major. I'm like, yeah, you would have been perfect for that. But I still like enjoyed it and it was interesting to hear everything.
Well, and I think it's like I said, it's that taking away from it what you can, Emily, because there is a large part of being an artist that is learning how to market yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Because ideally we would go into this, we go into this to make a profit, ideally, to sell some of the things that we make, or at least at the very least to sort of sell the services that we can provide as creative people. So it's not even necessarily like, oh, here's this thing I made, you want to buy it? It's also like saying it's selling who you are. So like you are your brand, Emily, like your skills and the things that only you can offer. I think it's important to think about those things. And, you know, I think we've had a really nice trajectory the past couple of weeks, sort of beginning to think about those heavy hitting issues and those kind of documents that we have to tackle as artists. So we started to put together a portfolio. You guys, you know, began doing that. You started with the artist statements, which they do become, you know, you're going to use those statements not only when you start to, like, let's say, build a personal website, but also anytime you're applying to practically anything, a job that might ask for, you know, some semblance of that. Your cover letter is kind of a version of that. It's sort of saying like, hey, here's who I am, here's what I've done, and this is why I'm good at that. This is why I would be a good candidate for that job. So a lot of that sort of, they fold in together. And so we're going to try to continue to build on that, which is the idea of like figuring out who you are as an artist, what your brand is as an artist or designer, and how we can, you know, basically prepare you so you have a packet, if you will, that is set and ready to go. That way you sort of are ahead of the game professionally by the time you get out of here, or at least that's my goal. I think that ultimately has become my goal for this class, is to like try to prepare you for you know, the world outside of academia, which that being said, we're having so many connection issues this week, y'all. It's okay. This is why we record these things. With that being said, we just got back from spring break. Did everybody have a good spring break? Getting some head not relatively so. Did anybody do anything exciting or fun? No? Just the much needed rest and relaxation. All right, that's a fair play.
I was gonna say, oh, sorry. I was gonna say I learned how to change a light fixture. I like bought one on Amazon and I put a chandelier in my room and I was like, I don't need anyone for this.
Oh, heck yeah. What kind of light fixture did you get?
Oh my God, my dog. It's like a gold, hang on, no, I'm not gonna bring it in my room, but it's like a gold chandelier, and it has like one pendant in the middle, and then like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like simple and gold, and I put like old-fashioned like light bulbs on it, and it looks good.
Oh, so kind of like mid-century modern.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm happy with it. I'm just like have such bad anxiety that like I'm gonna come back home and my house is gonna be on fire from an electrical fire, but I think it's fine. So.
Hey, it turns on.
Yeah, and I shut the breaker off before I changed it so I didn't get like electrocuted. So.
Y'all, we're getting tips and tricks about electrical systems today.
So
that's awesome. That's one of those things that like is a very real life skill. And I know that like I was really nervous the first time I ever did like an electrical project like that. I still by no means would take on like a crazy sculpture that required like a ton of like components, but I've rewired a lamp before, and it's definitely it is a good life skill to have. I paid like $10 for a lamp. It didn't work, and now it works, and it's in my bedroom. So that's great. Okay. Any other small victories over spring break?
I got an interview for an internship for the summer. I hope it goes well. It's next week, and I don't know.
If you have any worries or need any advice,
I just haven't talked about my work I haven't interviewed for a job that's not a crappy retail job, or like an internship before, and I haven't like had to professionally talk about my work to like someone where I could get a job. So I feel like I'm just gonna be really anxious and talk really fast. So we'll
That
see.
probably will happen just inherently and naturally, but can I offer a suggestion?
Yes, of course.
You are capable. You have done things. They were successful, and you should go into it with a level of confidence.
Okay.
To that end, I have a tendency to tell specifically women that they should go into it with the level of confidence that some of their male peers would go into it having, which is because and I don't want to make any hasty generalizations, but I feel as though a lot of the time my male counterparts in the fabrication field, when they go into an interview, they aren't anxious. They go in, they say, here's the things I've done, here's what I'm good at, I hope you hire me. And they sort of carry themselves with a level of confidence that I've often struggled with, me personally. And I actually, when I left Matthew Barney's studio in New York, the fabrication manager there, Kanoa, he sat me down at the end of the day, like my last day, and he was just like, I just want to tell you, like, moving forward, you need to go into every single interview with way more confidence than you had when you interviewed for this job. He was like, because you're capable of it. He was like, because you have the skill set to back it up. He was like, so it's not you being like cocky or overconfident. He was like, it's justified confidence. So I want you to just remember, you have a background in art and design. And so go in with some justified confidence.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I think that'll help. So thank you.
Just use that phrase, justified confidence. It's not misplaced confidence. You're not being cocky. It is earned confidence. You earned that. So, and that goes for anybody that interviews for anything ever. It's like, I will psych myself up or psych myself out of things a lot. And I'll just be like, oh, well, I'm not even going to apply to that because I'm not going to get it. Don't do that. Don't do that. You don't know. You're not a fortune teller. You can't read the future. So anything you do with justified confidence. Okay.
Also, oh, sorry. I learned to everyone else, I learned that like, don't like, I got discouraged because there wasn't many internship opportunities. Like when you search like internships on Google, but like if you just email companies, like I feel like they answer. So I learned that. That's for anyone else to know. I don't know.
Cold calling or cold emailing.
Mhm.
Alex, I know you had that question for Holly about like companies that were trying to move online via the pandemic and about reaching out to them.
Oh, I think that was Alexis.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Sorry, I wish I would have asked a question. But.
Never mind. But either way, like I didn't specifically speak that one out loud, but that was a really good question. And it's because there was this massive scramble in 2020 where all of these companies were like, we don't have fulfillment. We don't know how to do the online thing. But there were even more companies that didn't have an online presence, didn't have designers on deck. So I think the cold calling technique actually can benefit you in this sort of like pandemic landscape. And it's because you don't know what needs are out there, but there are definite needs out there. So I think that's excellent advice, Lauren. Just, it doesn't hurt to ask, as my mother says, it never hurts to ask. All right, any other small victories to celebrate as we return? Emily, I saw the cup that you gave to Michael.
Oh yeah.
It was
He bought
cute.
that for me. I made Kirby. I guess this is a small, I know it wasn't over spring break, but I did turn in my BFA review this morning and I feel a sense of relief.
Yes, do it. I did my taxes, and that's no small victory. I did that yesterday. I was just like, whew, okay, could have been worse than it was. I also got a rejection letter this week, so we're sort of like 1 for 1 in terms of wins here. Anything else? Any other small victories to celebrate? Hold on, let me update the chat. I did not hear you, Liv. Apparently, Liv yelled out exactly when I was talking about confidence. Women's,
no, my
History, Women's History Month, let's go, right? Now is the time, okay? If anybody ever needs like a psych up, like sports movie level pep talk, I'm here for you guys. I'm not going to have any athletics references because I've never played an organized sport, but I can be somewhat inspiring at times. So if you guys ever need something like that, shoot me an email. I will send you words of encouragement. Okay. Also, I think just before we sort of put a pin in Holly, I think her general disposition of how she carries herself is amazing. And I think a positive attitude and just being pleasant will get you really far in this world, which is not to say that you should always be pleasant and sort of agreeable as a woman. But I do think that you catch more bees with honey. Also, as my weird Southern mother says, which is just to say that being kind to people, it helps you expand your network. Because, if you just brush somebody off, let's say they cold email you about an opportunity and you just brush them off, you never know who you're saying no to, or you never know who you're like dismissing without knowing exactly who they are. So you should, keep that in mind. You never know who you're meeting when you're being introduced to new people, either online or through friends of friends, or when you go to gallery openings and you like shake some rando person's hand, which we don't do that very much nowadays. But, we're slowly returning to that. When that does, become more of a common occurrence, just keep that in mind. I know it's not always possible and every single day. We all have bad days, but you never know how you're going to benefit from the kindness of strangers and like random acquaintances that you meet. And I know I've said that before, but I think I literally digitally just met Holly yesterday when we did our like tech run through meeting, and she logged on and immediately had a smile on her face and asked me how I was. And not all of those tech meetings go that way. And I really appreciated it. And I know that like, if I ever have any questions about marketing or design, I know that I feel welcomed by her and that she potentially would answer those questions for me. So it's just a nice way to carry yourself. And I know I respond to people that carry themselves in that pleasant and kind of like warm way as well. Okay. So did you guys get a chance to read the reading that I sent you guys? Since we were coming back in from spring break, I didn't want to dive too heavily into anything that was like crazy or give you guys like more intense homework just yet. So I found this reading on artist morning routines, and I thought that it would be a kind of fun thing to discuss today, now that we're kind of refreshed from spring break and we're again starting the second half of the semester. What did you guys think of the reading? Did you find any interesting corollaries between your own morning routines and those of famous artists?
I thought it was funny. Like, there was some funny stuff in there. Like, it said Picasso would like go to his studio at 2, and I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds very relatable.
That's what I was thinking. I was just like, I specifically like the line that many prolific painters were left out of this list because they didn't get up before noon.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. And I thought it was funny. It's like, wow, like some of these people were going back to like the 30s, and I was like, it seems like pretty similar routines to, either myself or people I know. It's funny that like everyone's still kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, I think across the board, the mundanity of it all is just like kind of interesting. Like they were still human beings. We think of them as these like, you know, art stars that are completely out of reach, but you know, they ate breakfast too. What else? What about Salvador Dali?
They described it as egotistical, which I mean it is, but it was kind of nice, like thinking about yourself in the third person to be like, what is Lauren gonna do today? Because like Lauren can be cool today. She can, get a pet eater or something like him.
I love that they started the article like off that way, because I read that and I was like, I want to strive to be like Salvador Dali. Just imagine how different your life would be if you woke up every single day and the first thing mentally that you said to yourself is, I experienced supreme pleasure, that of being myself. Like if you, instead of waking up and just being like, what did I do last night? Or what do I have to do today? The first thing you think is, oh my God, I'm so glad that I'm alive, and I'm so glad that I woke up as me. Like how lucky I am. Like think of all the things that I could possibly accomplish being myself. And there was just something about that where I was just like, that blew my mind. I was just like, I'm doing this wrong. Like I'm waking up the wrong way, and it's setting a bad tone for the rest of my life. So yeah, I really like that a lot. I mean, yeah, it's egotistical, but like it's International Women's Month. When else can we wake up and be that way? It's also one of the reasons why I think I enjoy following Lizzo on Instagram, because like I feel like she wakes up every day and she's like, what great pleasure to be Lizzo today. I just get that vibe from her.
It reminds me of like when people talk about having like main character energy, like you just treat yourself like you're the main character of a movie. It's honestly what I aspire to have. And that's kind of like the same energy that I got from the presentation we just listened to. Cause it's just like I'm important and I know that. And I'm like grateful to be here and whatever. I don't know. I just wish that I could wake up every day and be like, yep, it's me and I'm gonna do great things. So then maybe I would like fake it till I make it, and I would do things that are amazing.
Well, and I don't know if we talked about it in this class, but I know we did talk about it in some of the readings from Art Forum last semester, which is this idea that like thinking isn't finite, and the way we think isn't finite, meaning that you can retrain your brain through cognitive exercises. So perhaps our takeaway from this week is that we wake up every single day and we try to wake up in the same mindset as Dali. And we try to be the main characters of our own lives, in that sort of like positive way. I mean, it's also good to be mindful that there are other people in the world, because it makes us like empathetic beings, and then we don't get tied up in all of the sort of minutia and, annoyances of the day, because we are able to understand our place in the cosmos. But, I think on average, we already have a tendency to we all think inside of our own like experiences, and so we already do this main character thing just without the confidence of it. So I think the confidence we can embrace, while understanding our place within the greater universe, but we already do that inherently. It's just a matter of putting the positive spin on it, rather than us being like, oh, I'm the main character and this is a tragedy. Liv says, oh, to be egotistical and empathetic at the same time. I know, I asked so much of you. Such complicated mental dialogues we're having. let's see. Let's talk about some of the other artists. What did you guys think about Warhol's morning? Because in what they talked about in the article, he doesn't do any artwork.
It
Oh
reminded me
yeah, it was
of
like
Coco.
he goes shopping.
Mhm.
Yes, he'd go
Weird.
shopping for hours and just hand out copies of his own magazine. It's just, but I like wrote a note. I was like, he was doing self-promotion in the mornings. He was networking, technically, by shopping and handing out these like magazines and things. What were you gonna say, Lauren?
Oh, it was not as great as that, but it reminded me of my grandma. Like she would, whenever I would visit her, like in the morning, she would always be on the phone with her sister for like and like at least 2 hours.
You
And
were
that would start her-
describing my grandmother as well.
Mhm.
She would wake up, make coffee and breakfast, read the Bible, and then call all her friends. I guess I don't think I've ever actually tried to pin down a routine. And I'm also, I think, learning that I don't have one. And I think I might benefit from one because I might be a more successful person that way. Let's see. I thought it was kind of interesting because, you know, the ones where they actually talk about like how they get to the creative part of their day. They usually do a couple of things before it, but they're pretty kind of basic. It's like take a shower, drink coffee, eat breakfast. I was surprised by how many artists ate breakfast. I don't know if I was just surprised because I'm not a breakfast eating person. But I was really surprised that like that many famous artists like ate at least something in the morning. But there was also like there was this idea of like a couple of them walked to their studios, like Balthus walked to his studio, and then I believe where did his name go? Oh, NC Wise, like he walked up a hill to go to his studio. So it's this idea of like communing with nature. And Georgia O'Keeffe occasionally would garden in the morning. Like, does anybody have a sort of morning commute that involves communing with nature? No? Really? None of y'all got into like gardening over quarantine? Watering your houseplants?
I have one plant. I finally got a plant that wasn't a succulent because I've killed every succulent that I've owned. And when I came home from spring break, I thought my plant was dead, but it was just being dramatic and I watered it and she's fine now.
Listen, indoor plants are often very dramatic.
This is
There's
my
that- I actually watched a pretty funny, like weird YouTube video where a person did a comparison of they were acting as if there were plants outside and then plants inside. And the inside plants were very dramatic. They were having like giant soliloquies and being very emo. I asked that because that has become one of my like main, I think, stress relief and like mental health activities that I've taken up over like the past 2 years is like I garden, which I used to kill everything. And now I like literally have my entire back studio room in my house. It's very small, but it's surrounded by windows. So I have a bunch of like plants that I'm starting from seeds back there. And I tend to them every single morning. It's like I have like little grow light lamps because it's still kind of cold. They can't go outside yet. And so I wake up first thing in the morning. I let, the dog out, and then I go into this back room and I like take care of my plant creatures. So I think there is something to having I'm going to call it a creative outlet that is outside of your artist practice. like something that you grow or foster in a way. I think a really good example, what did you guys think of like Chris O'Feely's breakdown of his studio practice? He sort of talked about how it was actually, he had a very rigid routine, and his actual studio was broken down into zones, which I thought was kind of crazy. It's like he started every single day so specifically. He would take one sheet of paper and rip it into 8 different sheets of paper. And then he would start by making abstract marks in pencil, and then eventually moving to watercolor, creating these Afro muses, as he calls them. And some days I really liked that section because, you know, he would say, it said that like some days he would only do 1, and some days he did upwards of 10. And so it just gives this kind of really human idea to the scope of what you can accomplish in a day. Sort of like some days it's not going to happen. Even Chris O'Feely only did 1 drawing that day. You know, but then other days it just sort of pours out of you and you complete like 10 of these paintings in a single day. There's just something that really humanized him, I think, in reading that. And then ultimately it's like all of those days that he would go in and sort of start doing this very simple creative ritual, he ended up with 181 of those paintings. And that ultimately became the central showcase of an entire, you know, solo show at the Studio Museum in Harlem. So it's this idea that just slowly through time, the small products, the products that we don't even necessarily think are important, but just use as exercises or warm-ups for the creative practice, can, you know, then become something else entirely. Like it can grow legs and then become its own show. I don't know. I just thought that was really lovely. What about Robert Rauschenberg? Watching The Young and the Restless every day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I like how they mentioned like he probably always had a TV on because he needs some sort of visual stimulation. Because sometimes I feel the same way. Like I throw on a documentary and I like kind of listen to it, but sometimes I just need to like stop and like look at different stuff. You know, I don't know. I can kind of relate to that, but it's not like a part of my morning routine or anything. But
well, and it stands in stark contrast to Louise Bourgeois, right? She needed complete silence
yeah,
in the studio. Like if there was like, well, and she worked as a sculptor. So how is there complete silence in her studio? Like somebody's got to be welding. Somebody's got to be banging metal around. Like how did her studio assistants function in her studio around her? Was everybody tiptoeing? Like, meanwhile, like Robert Rauschenberg, like what, did he have a big screen on in his studio in Florida? Like, did he ever watch The Price is Right? Did he like The Price is Right? I have a lot more questions now. Yeah, do any of you guys ever work with stuff going on in the background? Yes? Okay.
That's like the only way I work.
Well, I find that fascinating because some artists, they can't. They absolutely cannot. And then I meet like, you know, I met this ceramic artist, Kristen Morgan. She's a ceramic artist, but she makes like ceramic sculptures that are like the size of a car. And she specializes in unfired clay, and then she actually trompe l'oeil paints all of her sculptures to where they look like the actual real object. So like she'll do an entire installation of all of these objects, and it's made out of unfired clay, and then she paints it with acrylic paint, and so it just looks like whatever the object is. But she's one of the most prolific artists I've ever met. But she also watches more television than any other human being alive, I think. And it's the way she stays prolific, is she always has like a TV show running. And so it's like her brain never gets bored of what she's working on. because there's always this like ancillary information coming in as well, kind of keeping her entertained. Sometimes she ignores it, sometimes not. Sometimes it then informs the work. Like, I think there are like different types of artists that work in different ways, and then it's interesting that we have all the TV watchers up in this crew. Let's see. What did you guys think, like reading about all of these people that apparently they get up at 9, they drink coffee, have their breakfast, and then they just go and they create all day? What was your response to just reading that?
I think that that's like my dream. Like I said in my response in the discussion, like I would love to just like leisurely like drink coffee and my breakfast and then walk to my studio and not have to like focus on doing any, I mean, I don't know if they did like chores around the house or like fit like normal everyday people things into that. I guess that just wasn't touched on. But I don't know, that would be my dream, to just be like a full-time artist and just go to my private studio and I don't know, boss people around and not boss people.
Yeah, go to your private studio.
In charge of my life is kind of what I'm getting at, you know.
Go to your private studio that is like a separate building from your house, and you just walk across your beautiful garden.
That's been paid off because I have so much money and like.
Yes, or you go downstairs with your 2 matching dachshunds to eat with your housekeepers. Or you come back from your hour-long desert walk, and breakfast has been prepared for you by your personal cook, in the case of Georgia O'Keeffe. Yeah, so I had that same thought, but I also had a level of resentment towards all of these artists when I was reading this. And I was sitting there going, I was like, yeah, it's great, it's great and it's inspiring to like read about their routines, but there's also a part of it where I'm just like, okay, yeah, in a perfect world, but not all of us can do that. And so yeah, I was fighting this like sense of resentment towards these artists that have this sort of set in place. But it's also, like you said, it's like, if that's the dream, how do we achieve the dream? So it's like, there is a motivation behind it. I think we're just like, okay, well, how do we get there? That like perhaps might light a fire under us, productivity wise, to hopefully get us to that point one day. Yeah, I was interested if any of you like also picked up on this idea that like a lot of this is painfully impractical for the average human being in contemporary society. Well, especially as students. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, they're going to hate this. They're going to read this reading and they're just going to be reminded about all of the things that they have to do, like during their, the rest of their semester. Did anybody have that experience?
I think a lot of the things are things I'm capable of doing. I just don't understand how they are consistently doing this every single morning for like a majority of their lives. Like that part, I can't. My like downfall is like not being able to be consistent with the things I set up for a morning routine. Like after a week, I get lazy again. And then I have to build a new one because that one didn't work.
Well, and maybe that's what it is you haven't found what works yet. Maybe it's the order. Maybe you find out that you're not a morning person. Maybe you're the Jackson Pollock type that, sleeps all day and then works all night. Is that productive in like a society where you might have to have a day job? Probably not. But I know me creatively, oftentimes I'm more of a nighttime person. Like when I was in grad school, I would teach in the mid-morning, afternoon, And then I would usually take a couple hour long break, and then I would go to the studio at like 6 o'clock at night, and then I would like work until 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not a super great strategy for my life as it exists right now, but when I was in grad school, I was able to do that.
That's what.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
That's what this article kind of made me think about, like particularly like Miro's, is that how you say it? His routine. Like he said he started getting up early to fight like his depression.
Mhm.
And I think like I don't know, I feel like I would benefit from that. I'm not trying to like talk too much about it, but like I think getting up later, like even though I'm prone to doing that, it automatically feels like a failure. Like working late and then like getting up later, like you kind of feel like that's not acceptable. So it kind of leads me to think negatively about myself already at the beginning of my day. So I feel like if I got up early in the morning, I would be more productive and like feel better and be prone more to work because I feel better about myself. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And well, and I think it goes back to, the Twyla Tharp rituals of preparation thing. It's like, it's not, these things are not easy to do. They're difficult. They're probably difficult every single day. Like I'm sure Miro found it hard to get up some days at 6 o'clock in the morning and get going, but he knew that it was something that was serving him in some way. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to sort of give you guys this article, because I think, it was spring break. We were midway through a semester. So I think it's a good time to kind of like reassess maybe the routines that we've set up for ourselves, or maybe the ones that have fallen to the wayside, and to start to analyze those specific behavior points and ask the question, is that specific action serving me, or is it hindering me? So everything that is sort of serving you and moving you forward and, enhancing your mental health, which is again, like that's why I took up gardening. If it's serving you in a capacity creatively, if it's serving you just in a quality of life way, identifying all of those like moments, and then collectively writing them down, and then trying to figure out, okay, well, all of these things serve me, so I'm going to pursue those things, and all of these things are not serving me at all, or they don't fit, or they're actually holding me back, and then try to let go of some of that like negative pattern behavior, because ultimately you'll just end up as a more productive, creative, and happy person. Which is not to say that like you have to push yourself so hard all the time that like you get a bunch of stuff done. No, a lot of the stuff is that you take time and you create healthy boundaries as well, because otherwise you're going to suffer from burnout, which is another reason why I wanted to like take a pause, reassess our habits, because I also wanted to talk about burnout, because we have officially, as of last week, reached the 1 year mark of the pandemic and everything changing, which I think in and of itself probably has brought to us an entire new level of burnout, because we realize exactly how long it's been. Even just that realization of like, we've been doing this for a year now. And while, some of our tools and our methods for dealing with it have sort of made progress, I would say even in the way Webster sort of is doing classes and handling everything, like we have come so far since last spring when everybody got kicked out of the dorms, and, classes immediately went, online. Nobody had supplies. Like we've come really far since that. And we've been trying to work towards giving you guys at least a comparable educational experience, even if it is different, um, but we've had our missteps along the way. I mean, I know I have with how I've been teaching. since all of this happened, and I'm sure some of your other instructors have as well. But yeah, I think that I got to spring break last week and I was just like, oh, this is when everything changed. And I had like this like existential moment last week where I was just like, I'm so tired. It's like all of my exhaustion caught up to me last week. And I needed an easy read this week. That's why I picked this article, is because I needed it, because I'm still tired. And I am also reassessing all of my, bad pattern behavior and non-productivity. So I just thought we could have a conversation about it. Let's see, we've got chat stuff. There are things make you feel better, but you still end up self-sabotaging and you stop doing those. Let's talk about self-sabotage. Why do we do that? Is it easier? Are the things that is it one of those things where it's like you don't do the things that make you feel better because it's just easier not to do them? Is that what we're sort of talking about? Because frankly, doing nothing is like the easiest thing on the planet.
Pretty much.
Okay.
The other thing I was thinking about when I was reading all like these artist morning routines is the fact that they don't have TikTok and I do. And once I get on TikTok, I wait until that guy tells me to get off and then I spend another hour on TikTok. And I don't know. If all I had was my little house and cats and sunlight in the morning, then I would focus on those things. But I have my phone and then I get off track. And yeah, then the self-sabotage thing of like even when I know I need to do something because it's going to be better for myself, like sometimes I don't even get out of the bed for food for hours until it's like, okay, wait, now I like really need to. And I don't know. It's like a never-ending cycle.
I have never downloaded TikTok specifically for that reason. However, I offloaded almost all social media off of my phone because I had a very intense conversation internally about, and again, not to overshare, but about sort of like my mental health and like where I felt like I was. And this is probably about 2 months ago, like where I was just, I guess, existentially. And I realized that you guys are younger, but looking on Facebook and seeing everyone else's family and life and like life changes and all of that stuff, I found that it wasn't serving me because I kept comparing myself to like all these people that I know, and I kept comparing myself and thinking like, oh, that's where I'm supposed to be in life. And none of that is productive because my timeline is not your timeline, which is not Alex's timeline, which is not Monica's timeline. And I realized that none of that was being productive. And also like, that specific instance of having it on my phone, it was so habitual that I did it every day without even recognizing it. I also watched that documentary that's on Netflix about the social dilemma. That's what started it all. That's what made me realize how addicted I was to my phone. But yeah, I decided to try it as an exercise, and I took Facebook off of my phone and Facebook Messenger and Twitter. I don't have TikTok. I left Instagram because that feeds me creatively. I follow a lot of artists and stuff on there, so I did keep that one. But I did find that my screen time plummeted when I literally just deleted the app. Which is not to say that I got rid of those accounts. They still exist, but I have to literally open my computer, type it in, and reach it out that way. And I found that I was only doing that every couple of days. So if you're feeling bold and you want to challenge yourself, you can take it off of your phone. There's also apps that you can use, I don't know the name of any of them, but there are apps that you can use that will limit your social media intake. And so if you find yourself falling into that pit, maybe you like get one of those apps and then it limits how much time you're getting down that rabbit hole. And then you might be able to like sort of buy some of that time back for yourself. And it would be interesting to see like what things you notice change about like, your behavior, what you get accomplished in a day, but also like your overall like mental status. Cause I noticed that mine changed. I was like enjoying myself. I was like, oh, the sun is out. And then I would just like walk outside and just like walk around barefoot, like in the grass in my backyard. And I was just like, this is lovely. So yeah, at the same time, I'm addicted to watching Hulu, and it does the same thing. It'll play an episode after an episode after an episode after an episode. And I've been watching a lot of Fixer Upper on Hulu because I find it calming, and it also has a lot of demolition and destruction in it. I enjoy the cycle of that. So yeah, that's why we're having this conversation, is like, let's pinpoint those things. Like, how do you self-sabotage? And it's going to take a bold act to stop doing that. And here's the thing, you're going to relapse. You're going to TikTok relapse. It will happen, and that's okay. But it's the idea that you keep trying and you keep working towards it. I think this article kind of made everything seem like exactly what you said, which is that these artists were able to do this every single day of their life for the entirety of their career, which simply is not true. This was just a broad sample of an average day in their life. And it's important to remember that like each day is going to be different. But routine can be beneficial. What else? Any other tips and tricks for fighting self-sabotage that other people have come up with? Because I'm all ears. I need it.
One thing that I've been doing, I was kind of like stereotypical and like started working out like after the new year in the mornings. And I don't do it like every day, I'm not gonna lie, but the days I did like get up in the morning and work out, like at the end of the day when I hit my pillow, I was like, you know what, today wasn't a good day, but at least like I worked out and like invested in my health. And like there's been studies that show that like fitness and working out and even like yoga and small stuff like that can like sets off endorphins in your brain and it makes you happy. You just don't notice it. And so I don't know, that's been one of the things that's like made me feel better, like mentally.
Even just getting up and moving, like I'm not like a huge fitness person, again, never played organized sports. But I back in August, September, before winter set upon us, I was going on 2 pretty long walks every single day with Clementine, and I felt great. And I know it's been raining for like 4 days in a row, so that's not exactly a viable option, but we have officially reached spring. And so I would highly suggest that working that in, even if it's just like a brief little jaunt around campus or around your neighborhood. Because you are right. It does exactly that. It releases that like norepinephrine and serotonin into your brain. And then you're just like, oh, I feel more capable to do other things. What else? Other strategies? What are some routines that you're hoping to reset for the spring? Anybody? Is anybody facing like who's graduating? Anybody? We have anybody? Oh, you guys are lucky. I was about to say, is anybody like reaching their thesis and they're about to like go into a long stretch of work? Okay, good. Then you guys can be more chill. How are you guys feeling about the first half of the semester? And then do you guys feel capable to tackle the next half? Or are you guys in the burnout zone?
I don't know, for me personally, I think spring semester goes by a lot faster because I like thrive in warmer weather. So like once I start seeing it get nice outside, I just feel better and more energetic. And then I'll be like, wow, like it's March already. It just goes by so fast.
Yeah, how have we already done? We're in week 9?
Yeah.
We're in week 9. Like literally the semester is going to be gone before we even know it. I'm that way too. This winter was hard. I didn't make anything. I'm just going to go ahead and like let you know that right now. I think I made like 2 watercolors. Maybe. It was just a hard one for me. It's like, granted, I'm going to give myself credit. We're still in a pandemic. You still can't do or see half of the people you want to see.
Yeah, that's the problem with like social media is because sometimes I'm like, oh, I need to use it less. But I'm also like, that's my like main form of communication right now. I mean, granted, there are some things like, TikTok and stuff that I don't really communicate with and that are just distractors and pure entertainment. But like Snapchat, I don't really text that much. I mostly just text people through Snapchat, which is kind of funny to think about. But I'm like, well, I don't want to stop using that because then I'll stop seeing people I won't usually see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. Well, and that's where you just have to judge your communication for yourself. Like again, I saw the Facebook stuff and I was like, this is not productive. I was like, this is just making me feel bad. But if it's something that's like bringing you joy, it's the Marie Kondo, the apps on your phone. Like, does it bring you joy? Keep it. Does it not? Get rid of it. Again, I think the second half of the semester is going to be way easier just because we do have sort of the benefit of the sun on our side. But I did want to touch base with you guys and double check because this is 16 weeks of unfettered online only communication. So I did want to make the announcement. All of you guys are aware that we have weekend hours in the studios now, right? Okay, everybody's aware of that. We didn't have it for the first half of the semester, but now we officially have Saturdays and Sundays where the VAS is going to be open, I believe, from 8 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So if you guys are sort of wanting to tiptoe back into the idea of ordinary studio life, or take advantage of all of our facilities, we officially have weekend hours. I also want to say thank you to everybody that has listened to my emails and updated postings and all of that. And if you haven't, again, we reached midterm. I'm going to be sending out the midterm reports pretty soon. Just double check your asynchronous participation because that's sort of what I'm grading from for this class. And again, this class is essentially participation only in how I'm grading, which is, did you show up? Did you do the homework? Okay, good. You get participation points for it. Like I'm not here to scrutinize your opinions on the homework. I wouldn't even know where to start. I think all of y'all's ideas are valid and equal. So just make sure you do that because that's how you're going to get full credit for each week in this class. So moving forward, are you guys finding the artist statements, the portfolio, that type of stuff beneficial? Okay, so do we want to keep adding in some stuff like that? Because I have a reading, so I I have a reading that is about creating an artist packet, which, like I said, is creating that arsenal of documents that you should have as an artist, as a designer, moving forward in your careers. So I was thinking about for next week assigning that reading, but you don't have to create everything in the packet. So it's just giving you the reading so you know what type of different documents and their subsequent subcategories of those documents that you should have, without like actually assigning you to make every single one of those. I figured that would be a really good place for us to start and kind of like reconnect. That way you guys can get a holistic idea of what it is to be a professional working designer and artist. And then you guys can then respond to me and say, hey, I think it would be beneficial if we did that thing that it mentioned in the reading. And I can kind of like take a poll from you guys, and then we'll see, what kind of actual homework assignments we give from that. And I know it's going to be kind of dry. And like I said, every couple of weeks, I'm trying to put in like a fun reading or a video. That way it doesn't bog you down too much. But I'm still trying to keep this as a productive learning experience where you guys actually take something away from it. So does that sound good? Sort of. I have a list. It's literally a chapter in one of my books that's like how to be a professional artist, and it'll give you a breakdown of what all the documents are, and hopefully answer a lot of questions you guys might have about those. So I will try to get that scanned into a PDF and then upload it on Sunday. And then, yeah, that'll be your homework for next week. If you guys will bear with me for a second, I want to queue up. I don't know off the top of my head who the artist is going to be next week. Let me just double check. Oh, okay. So we will be having a lecture from one of our adjunct faculty, Yvonne Osai. Has anybody taken any classes with Yvonne? Okay. Well, awesome. So you will get to learn about her art practice. She has like a fashion and photography background that is really interesting. And so I'm really looking forward to her talk. And I hope you guys will enjoy it as well. Any other comments or questions for today? All right, cool. Yeah. Thank you all for participating in the discussion today. Like I said, I wanted it to be just kind of like a fun, more chill day since we're coming back from spring break. Nothing too heavy. Yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And yeah, if you think of anything, or like I said, need a pep talk for any interviews or what have you coming up, shoot me an email and I would be happy to provide said pep. All right, guys, you guys have a wonderful weekend. Go take a walk outside. There's your homework, your immediate homework. And I'll see y'all next Friday.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.